Hi there, welcome to Denny Real Estate. Today I'm going to go over how to perform a cash flow calculation. So if you've ever wondered how a real estate agent, how an investor, how a landlord figures out if a property is a good investment or not, they need to perform a cash flow calculation. I'm hoping today my tutorial will show you how to do that. The first thing we have to do is find a property. So I was looking on the MLS and came across this property, which I know quite well. It's 15 and 17 Cornwall Road in Cornwall, PEI. This is a 4-bedroom, 2-bath on one side and a 3-bedroom, 2-bath on the other side. It's a duplex. I know that the 3-bedroom could also easily be converted to a 4-bedroom. Going through the pictures, you'll see it's a really nice place. I think it would rent out pretty easily. And yeah, in my opinion, from just this outside perspective, it looks like a reasonable price and a good investment. So we'll see how the cash flow calc turns out. The first one I'm going to go through is a free platform called landlord.io. So if you log in here, it's pretty easy to set up an account. I just went through it. And then once you're logged in, you click on Deal Analyzer. Using the Deal Analyzer, you should be able to input some information and it'll calculate and then spit out, ideally, what a cash flow would be for this property. And by cash flow, I mean after all of your expenses are paid, how much money do you make per month? So I've already put some preliminary information in here as a buy and hold. I thought maybe we could get a $10,000 discount on it. If you look back through here, both sides is quite big. They both have basements. It's bright. It's really well done. So I think you could get in the range of $2,500 per month. Like I said, I know this property personally. I know the owners of it. So I also know that there's no preset rents to this property. In PEI, we have some of the strictest rent control in Canada, so that's a big one. You need to make sure that the property doesn't have really low preset rents. I'll say we're buying this with a mortgage, not just with cash, because who has that much cash? Proceed. So once we get in here, if I scroll down, there will be a bunch of metrics down here, but before I do that, I'm going to go into edit. The reason being is landlord.io, they're pretty good, but they will make a whole bunch of assumptions for you. And you need to go through and make sure that the assumptions they've made are correct. So firstly, if there's any notes you want to include about the property, one thing I like to do is grab the link. We'll shoot it in here so you have it later. We're going to assume that we get a $10,000 discount on it, so we'll put the price at $689. We already talked about rents. If you're buying this not to move into, but as an investment, which is what we're doing here, you will have to pay a property transfer tax, which is about 1% of the purchase price. In this case, $6,900. Closing costs, so they generated this. I didn't put this in here. They're probably pretty close. You know, you've got legal fees of about $2,500. You're probably paying for 2 inspections, maybe in the range of $700-800. So maybe I'll bump it up a little bit to 30. Yeah, I'll put $3,500. Improvement costs, like I said, if you go through the photos, it's a beautiful house. I don't think you're improving much, so I wouldn't bother with that. Financing, so you're buying with a mortgage. LTV is loan to value, so that's how much are you putting down. An LTV of 75% means you're putting down 25%. Some banks will let you do an LTV up to 80, so I'm going to do that. It just means less out of pocket. 30-year term, yep, that sounds good. Mortgage rate, they generate this, and I'm not exactly sure where they pull it from, but that's pretty close to what you would get. So the only way you'll really know is if you reach out to a realtor or a mortgage broker and, you know, give them all your financials and say, hey, what would I qualify for? Let's be a little bit more conservative and say 4.75. Method of repayment, any bank is going to take capital and interest unless it's a funky loan like a construction loan or some of the MLI stuff, or if you have an agreement with the seller for seller financing, but typical would just be capital and interest. So here's your monthly payment, $28.75. That seems pretty bang on to me. Mortgage insurance, you're not going to put anything in for here unless you plan on moving into the property, putting less than 20% down, like 5, 10, or 15%. Since you're buying this as an investment, it has to be at least 20%, so we won't put anything in there. Managing agent fee. So this would be like a management company for your rental. I am going to zero this out and just say that as an investor you plan to manage it yourself. Landlord insurance, I would want to put something in here for sure. You know, you've got a $750,000 home. Just basing this off experience with my own properties, I'm thinking your insurance is probably going to be in the range of $150 to $200. So we'll put $175 per month for that. For utilities, we'll say you're going to get your tenants to pay the utilities. Maintenance, I like to assume about 10% of gross rents for an older home and somewhere in the 6 to 7% range for a newer home. This place is in really good shape, so I think with rents of $5,000 per month, I'd say maybe $400 to $450 per month. That would be safe. Property taxes. The property taxes can really vary, but for this one, I would assume about $5,000 per year. If you were really serious about this property, you just touch base with your realtor and they can find out pretty quickly. So we will save all that information. Now that we've adjusted some of the metrics, some of the inputs, sorry, here's your metrics. So $148,000 out of pocket. Your annual cash flow, what you make, is just shy of $10,000. That's $833 per month. Your cash on cash return is almost 7%, which is really good. I won't go into too many of these in detail. If you really like this calculator, you can put in all the same inputs and then play around with it. You can also do like best case scenarios and worst case scenarios, internal rate of returns. There's tons of flexibility. Another cool thing is you can generate reports. Say you wanted to take this and show it to an investor. You could generate a report and it'll make it look just really professional for you. So I'm also going to go through my own just to compare. This is my own spreadsheet that I made, and this is probably a lot less intuitive, but it's also a lot less of a black box. Like, I know how this calculator works, so I'm very confident in it, and it's always a good idea to run it through too. So I'm going to go in and do $689,000. That's our offer. That's what it's going to be worth. We'll do 20% down. It's 2 units, 2 doors, so $344 each. I already went over here and put in the 4-bed, 2-bath, and 3-bed, 2-bath at $2,500. But you know what? We saw in the landlord that it's quite profitable at $900 a month, like almost $1,000. That's extremely profitable. So let's just see in here if we were only by chance able to get $2,300 for the 3-bedroom and $2,400 for the 4-bedroom. Let's see how it would shake out. Another thing I like to do is a vacancy of anywhere from like 4 to 6%. And what that does is it accounts for it being vacant a couple weeks of the year. So if, say, your tenants moved out and it took you 2 weeks to fill it, that's not just money lost, you've accounted for it. Mortgage of $2,800. If I scroll down here, this is where that number changes. So a 30-year amortization, and I think we said 4.75. So that's $2,860 mortgage. Property taxes, I think I said about $5,000 a year on landlord. Anyway, I think $400 to $450 per month is a pretty conservative guess, but if I were to put an offer in on this property, I'd actually look it up in the records. Insurance, $150, yeah, that seems reasonable. Maintenance and CapEx, I'll do 9% of the total net rent, which is up here, and that's $380 a month. I think that's pretty good. You know, that's over $4,000 a year you're just putting aside to maintain the property. I'm going to say cable and internet and utilities, none of that stuff is included. No cleaning, no grass, no snow. One thing with my properties I do is I'll provide shovels and I'll provide lawnmowers and stuff, and I'll maintain them, but it's the tenant's responsibility to upkeep that stuff. Property management fee, usually this would be around 5 to 10%, but I'm going to say that I would self-manage this property. So all these fees up here are monthly fees, month over month. And that's a total of $3,839. These down here are one-time fees, just when you buy it. So property transfer tax, legal fees, let's bump that up to $2,500. And then I'm going to say $400 per side for an inspection, which is pretty reasonable. This ROI calculation, what it does is it's saying how much will this property increase in value every year and how long before you sell it. So I think anywhere in the 3 to 5% range has been typical over the past decade. I'm being pretty conservative here with 3.5 or even 3%. And I'm going to say I'll sell it after 15 years. So if I go back up here, my monthly cash flow is about $625. So that's pretty bang on to our landlord calculation, taking into account that we assumed $300 and less rent in this one. That's $7,500 per year, an initial investment out of pocket of about $150,000, and a return on that of 5%. For PEI, that's really good. This future value is what I needed the appreciation and the number of years I'm going to keep it for. And so it's saying if you sell in 15 years, your resale value should be $1.1 million. You should only owe about $370,000 at that point. Your total profit will be over $800,000. So all in all, this is a really good investment. Like your total return on investment is 560. If you break that down by the 15 years you own it, would be 37%. Cap rate is 6%. Like, it's hard to beat these with any other investment strategy. Yeah, I won't go, there's a lot of stuff going on here. I won't go into the detail of it all, but feel free to rewind, feel free to pause to try and figure out how you calculate these and see if your numbers match mine. Another great place, if you don't like how Landlord does theirs, or if you don't have your own spreadsheet calculator, which if you want a copy of mine, I'm happy to provide that. Just send me an email. Another good one, though, is Bigger Pockets. They're a really good resource for real estate investors. And if you sign up with a free membership, you can get access to their rental property calculator. I won't go through this one, we've already done two, but those are just a couple really good resources for you. Hey guys, thanks for watching my cash flow calc tutorial. I hope this is really valuable to you. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and feel free to share this with anyone you know who might be interested. If you like this content and you'd like to learn more about real estate investing, being a realtor, how to buy a house, all those kind of things, feel free to subscribe to this channel. Have a great day.